Welcome, everybody, to the PHDJ podcast. My name is Mike.
What's up? It's Joe.
How are you, Joe?
I'm pretty good, man.
Are you okay? Good. It's been what, 48 hours since the Tar Heels lost a heartbreaker. I got to say, I'm not trying to rub it in, but what is your I know this is not a sports podcast. It's DJ, and we're going to get to it quickly. But Joe, I know you're a huge fan. How do you recap the season? What's your feeling?
The season. I owe them an apology because I
you had counted them out.
I counted them out. I said they were not very good. I said that
mid-season, it sounded like, I mean, I don't follow the sport that much, but mid-season, they weren't very good.
They weren't good. They lost a lot of games they shouldn't have. They're not deep. They literally have about 5 players, 6 if they're really lucky. Mm-hmm. And I always knew they would make the tournament. That would almost be like sacrilege.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't not, right. So, but they went in as an 8th seed, and if I understand, they were only the 3rd, 8th seed to make it to the final?
That sounds right.
I think they said that during the broadcast the other night.
Or maybe, if I'm not sure.
So
if
you
it was
certainly
the 3rd,
you certainly exceeded expectations there, but
hugely.
Then you get to the finals, you take a 15-point lead into halftime, and then you blow it in the second half. That's got to sting, right? I mean, you get that far.
I can only attribute it to all the people that were texting me prematurely and saying that's the game.
I didn't do that. I texted you at halftime. All I wrote was wow. Because, it was a wow for you guys dominated. Right. I mean, Kansas was a 4.5-point favorite, and I almost went to bed at half because it was getting late for me. And again, I don't really follow it. And here's what I said to myself going into the second half. I said, if North Carolina gets this lead to 20, I'm going to bed. Yeah, right. But then as soon as the first, and this is where Kansas got themselves back in the game quick instead of taking their time. Okay, so that's the sports recap. Joe and I are not qualified to do sports, clearly. But let's talk about DJ-wise.
Okay.
Eric Church, who I know you're aware of this situation, and most of our listeners may or may not, but let's bring them up to speed. Eric Church is a country singer. I would assume everybody knows that.
From here.
Yeah, from North Carolina.
From North Carolina, Western North Carolina.
He had a show scheduled Saturday night in Texas, correct?
Correct, San Antonio.
And the weekend before, when UNC beat St. Peter's to go to the Final Four, meaning they would have a huge game on Saturday night, he canceled his show. Right,
he did.
Sent out a text message to his fans. He said, I hate to do this, but this Saturday, my family and I...
He even said it was selfish, right?
He did. When he announced with Ticketmaster he would not be showing up, this Saturday, my family and I are going to stand together to cheer on the Tar Heels as a team has made it to the Final Four. As a lifelong Carolina basketball fan, I've watched Carolina and Duke battle over the years, but to have them match up in the Final Four for the first time in the history is a sports enthusiast dream. So Joe texts me in the prep, and yes, we do prep for this show, dear listeners. Hey, you heard about Eric Church, I assume, ? And I wrote, yes, fucked up. And Joe writes, but is it ? But then you followed up with an LOL. So please explain to me, Joe, what do you think that Eric Church was wrong?
He's wrong. Yeah. And I'm not even a country music fan.
So you were just being a provocateur by saying that. Okay.
Yeah. He is absolutely in the wrong. I love the Tar Heels. I actually love Eric Church, even though I'm not a huge country music fan, whether it be he's from here or just the songs. For some reason, Keith Urban, and a couple other guys are just speak to me.
Right.
So I hated that he did this. In no circumstance, especially, when there's 25, 30,000 people, most of whom have bought tickets, traveled, maybe even taken off work, saved their money, blah, 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 looking forward to seeing you come should you do something like that. I have, and Mike can attest to the same, and it's not something we're proud of, sat my phone beside me at many a show to see a score tick by, whether it was for the Dallas Cowboys for Mike or for the Tar Heels. I mean...
Well, listen,
I can say this. Let me just say this.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
In 37 years, knock on wood, I've never missed a show or canceled a show.
Okay.
Never. I've never missed or canceled a show in 37 years.
That's great. I cannot say that. I had a medical condition about 7 or 8 years ago that made it impossible for me to do a show. I had replacements. Jay Thompson, Dominic Sestito filled in for me. So Elite Entertainment was able to send qualified, experienced DJs. But so if by some fantasy world the Mets ever make it to the World Series and they're playing a Game 7 on a Saturday night and I happen to be on a wedding, would it be acceptable for me to say to that bride, hey, sorry, I've got a great replacement, but I'm not going because I can get tickets to Citi Field to see my Mets take on whoever?
Okay. Based on,
do you think that would be acceptable?
Hold on. Based on who you are, owner of the company, B, the reputation of Elite Entertainment, and C, if you are in fact truthful and not, I have blown my hip out and I have to be in the hospital, then I'll allow it. And four, because I will say this, I have asked probably twice in my career a couple if I could dip on their wedding to do another. One was, can I do my friend's wedding in Aruba? She said, no, you have. We booked you. We want you. Guess where I was? I was at the Raleigh Country Club that night.
Great. Yeah.
The second one was one of my best friends was getting married. I mean, the most elaborate multi-million-dollar wedding in New Orleans, police escort, the whole thing. He wants me in it. Can I go to New Orleans and be in this guy's wedding? Nope. We want you. You're DJ Joe Bunn. We booked you. We expect you to be here.
So here's the point I would make about your friend. If your friend really wanted you in the wedding, especially if he wanted you in the wedding party, your friend knows what you do for a living. He knows the commitment it takes. And this is my point about it. When you invite me to a wedding, if you really want me there, you'll check my schedule first. Right. If I'm that important to you, especially if you want me in the bridal party, then you would say to me, hey, Joe, give me some dates in X month, because I want to make sure you're there. If not, then you need to understand, as my friend, I have a commitment. I make a commitment. I make a very good living making those commitments. So I love the fact that you said, be honest about it. Don't use the grandma died excuse or I blew a hip out. And I also like what you said about ask. I would agree with you that it's completely unacceptable. I would even question about asking, but that's the right way to do it. Asking is better than just saying, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do your wedding. And kudos to you, tip of the cap to you, that both times bride said, nah, Joe, I booked you. And especially now, Joe, that you are charging a premium for you.
Correct.
I think it's even more egregious if you beg out or even ask out. So I would never go back to that fantasy scenario, which will probably never happen because my Mets suck. But I would never. I would not even ask. And this is not me saying that. I've been in that position in the past, and I've just done the gig. You said we're not proud to admit it. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a phone there following a score. I can do both. I can rock the shit out of a wedding and also be aware that the Mets are down 3-1 in the seventh inning. I can do both.
Right.
But so and here's the thing I would say, and this just happened to me last week, so it's a fresh reminder. One of my DJs had a medical condition this spring, and he asked me a couple months ago, if I could clear his schedule for 3 months. He's a veteran, so it was difficult to do, but I called, I think it was half a dozen brides, and I explained the situation to them, and they all seemed cool on the phone. So the other day, now May 7th, I'm stepping into that wedding. I didn't have a wedding that night, so I'm stepping in to do that wedding. So the other day, I called that bride to set up an appointment because now it's a month before. It's time to go over the details. I get her on the phone. I say, hi, this is Mike from Elite Entertainment. Here's what she says to me. Oh, please tell me you're not calling again with bad news.
Oh, wow.
So that was a fresh reminder that when these situations come up, you are causing. So this bride it's been top of mind, or at least on her mind for months now. And I was like, no, Jennifer, of course not. I'm doing your wedding. I'm just calling to
I'm excited.
But here's the anxiety and listen, this woman got the owner of the company. I've got more experience than the DJ who I'm filling in for, more reviews. I'm the owner of the company. Go to the bank. I know the banquet. I'm sure that if the banquet hall,
same price.
If you said to the banquet hall, hey, I have a choice between this guy and the owner, they go, oh, get the owner. With all that said and done, this bride was still like, oh, please tell me you're not. So that was just a fresh reminder of I try to avoid these situations in every single situation, because even if the bride sounds cool on the phone, and this bride did, you're giving her angst, you're giving her anxiety, and we should be doing everything we can to avoid that.
Right. Not to mention the pressures of the world as it stands today. COVID or this or venue change, date change, whatever has happened to her in the last 2 years.
Right. And so the final point I would make about this is most big sporting events, the dates have been decided years in advance. Like the Final Four next spring, right? Those dates are available somewhere, correct?
Yes, correct.
The Super Bowl, the Super Bowl is set
it is established
years in advance.
I know, right? I can tell you. Go ahead. Anyway,
right.
Go ahead.
Now this season, baseball season, because of a strike, and again, our listeners who aren't sports fans might not be aware, but baseball had a strike during the off season, so they pushed this season back a little bit. So this year, the World Series is actually later than it was originally scheduled. But most years, you can know a year in advance what dates the World Series are set on. If watching a sporting event is that important to you, block the date off. If you would ever call a client, and Joe had two scenarios where it was last minute opportunities for him. Yeah. If Eric Church is such a big Tar Heels fan, and let's face it, making the Final Four for the Tar Heels is not that obscure. I mean,
it's not that rare,
if he was a St. Peter's fan and St. Peter's had somehow beaten you could say, well, who saw that coming? But I mean, the Tar Heels again, I'm not a huge fan, but you guys make the Final Four on a fairly regular basis. If it's worth canceling a wedding for or trying to, then just block the date off. Accept the fact that don't book it. Yeah.
Eric Church, here's the thing. Do not book a tour on April 1st or April 3rd of 2023 because the Final Four will be in Houston.
Right.
And
if it's so important to you that you would cancel a show, then just and you can book the tour, but have that weekend off. You know what I mean? And if it turns out your Tar Heels get eliminated, you can throw a last-minute show in somewhere if you want, or you can just have a Saturday night off with your family.
Listen, at the end of the day, man, it is okay with me, and it's probably, I think Mike and I have talked about this before, and we prefer it. As soon as our guys, girls, staff know that they need dates off, right, that they just block them off. And I get an email from DJ Event Planner. Yep. Kent took off, blah, 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 blah. Mitch will literally take off from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Like, he's like, listen, man, I've been with you for 15 years. We go to the beach every weekend. I've got a beach house. I worked my ass off to buy it. This is what we do. I sell software Monday through Friday, and I'm going to go down there and drink brown liquor on the weekend and sit on the beach. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, bro. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. He's just... Yeah,
you'd rather have his services during the summer, but you get it.
Sure.
And it is so much better than booking him and then having him go, oh, Joe, I meant to block that date off, but it's July 4th weekend.
Or he shows up phoning it in.
Right. So, yes, for any non-owner who's listening to this, that is the way to do it. For the owner of the companies, it's a commitment. We all know that, and we get paid handsomely for it. If we made minimum wage, I could see your point. Going, what do you mean I'm locking in a date for $12 an hour? But we get paid handsomely, not Eric Church money, but we still get paid handsomely. Make the commitment. Cool. All right. Great. I'm glad you were just being provocative because if you were going to stand by, it's worth reassigning a gig.
No, man.
Based on
I got incredibly, incredibly lucky. I made a post after the game, and I said,
I saw that. Yeah.
I said, for the first time in the history of my life, I literally saw every game they played in that tournament, and for the most part, I was with Davis, who loves the freaking.
That was awesome. I especially knowing how my love of sports is so tied to my relationship with my father. Your post about you and your son, I'm getting all kind of teary now, but it meant so much to me, Joe. And I love the fact that you haven't forced the sports on him, but you let him come to it, and then you've accepted it. He will have memories of you 40 years from now. 50 years from now, when you maybe are gone, he'll watch a Tar Heels game and go, I remember watching this with my dad. I remember watching this with my pop. So kudos to you for nurturing that love in him. Kudos. All right, now we should take a break because we're both teary-eyed. What's up? Sorry to interrupt this amazing podcast, but I want to tell you a quick story. I love the beach, and living at the Jersey Shore, I get to enjoy it a lot during the summer. But because I have DJ Event Planner, I am never out of touch. I have scheduled events from my beach chair and sent contracts to clients while baking in the summer sun. Can you do that? If you have DJ Event Planner, you sure can. This system does it all. It streamlines everything you need to run a successful DJ business in one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner is perfect for solo DJ companies as well as large multi-ops. Your sales will increase with their best-in-the-business CRM tools and automated emails. And your customer satisfaction will go through the roof as your clients start to use the awesome online planning tools. Best of all, there's no software to install and no backups to worry about. So hit pause on this podcast, head to djeventplanner.com and start your free 30-day trial. Then you can return and finish listening to all of our brilliance. All right. Well, what's the Galway weather?
It's allergies. It's pollen season. It's going crazy.
Yeah, it must be. All right. So let's talk about the Grammys. You watched, did you finish it? I know you said
I did. I finished it in bed this morning on my phone. I didn't figure out how to record. I figured out how to record.
Okay. What did you think of the show?
I don't think I loved it as much as you, Mike, based on the post. And I heard this on the radio yesterday, and this just tells me that the award show era, as it currently is dead.
It's dead. 50%, yeah, I completely accept
50% down from 2 years ago, not last year, but the year before. 50% viewership down.
Right. And if you want to go back a decade, I don't have those numbers for the Grammys, but the Oscars... The Oscars are down about 80% from a decade ago. They used to get, they used to get 50, 60 million people tuning in, and 10 million this year, 15 million, whatever. It was 10 million last year, 15 million this year. Yeah, I accept that. I accept that live TV. I mean, I accept the fact that appointment TV is dead. Most people like you have streaming services and not live TV, and they don't want to be told Sunday night at 8 o'clock, you got to be in front of the TV. I will watch it on my schedule. Super Bowl and key sporting events are the only things left that are appointment TV, and award shows are just not that important to so many people. But given that, your personal, I mean, I'm fully aware of that, but I can still appreciate a show or not appreciate a show for my own personal. You didn't love it.
I gave it a C. I mean, I didn't fail it, and it's not. I'm an old guy. What is this music? It's not about that. Well, let's just kind of run through it, Mike. I mean,
let's break it down. Let's break it down in segments. Did you have a favorite performance? One of the things I love about the Grammys is they don't focus on the awards. They give out 90% of the awards prior to the show.
Yeah.
It's mostly about the live performances. Did you have favorite performances or a favorite performance of the night?
Man, I love Silk Sonic, man. I love what they're doing. I love
their opening
costumes.
Was phenomenal.
I love Bruno. I love the way they accepted their awards.
Dude, I was going to say that. From the table. Both times when they won, if our listeners didn't see it, just go back if you can find. I don't know if they've put this up on YouTube, but just when they announced their win, and these two rehearsed it because it was so choreographed, just getting out of the chairs in such a cool, very Prince-like. It was phenomenal.
I'm telling you, and this goes back, and I'll just kind of just derail this for 1 second. Is this album, whatever, if there's I don't know really that I've played anything off of it at a gig, but and I've heard people say that. I remember when I was hyping it up, when the record came out, I was like, this is it. I love this album. You can't tell me any different, blah, blah, blah. Even The Weeknd's new album. Brian B. the other day hits me up. He's like, man, this album is trash. There's nothing to play on it. If you're listening to music strictly to find a song to play at your gigs,
you're missing
you are
half
listening
of the
to
love.
music.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, I literally was like, Brian, if that's why you're listening to music, which is the greatest gift that we probably all have as a world,
right,
then you need to like really check yourself and stop listening to music like that. And I'll say that to anybody listening to this, stop listening to music like that. The radio will tell you what's hot. The charts will tell you what's hot. If that's why, if you want to do research like that, do not listen to music to try and find shit to play at your gig. Thank you.
100%. I posted that I think the Grammy should be required viewing for our industry, and that obviously ruffles some feathers, and some people were like, no. And a few people were like, there's nothing on that show that I'm going to play at my gigs. And they might be right. The J Balvin, I think, was probably worth seeing. But still in all, I said this to them. I said, well, what about just your love of music? I mean, forget. One of the things I love about our industry is that we're involved in music, and I love music. But yes, I totally agree, Joe. I hear plenty, and I love hearing a song that I go, A, I love it, and B, I'm not going to have to play it at gigs because it's not going to become work. It's going to be something that I can listen to on my runs or at my desk or in my house, and I'm going to love it for the love of music. So 100% agree, and I've always thought that's one of the things that you and I have in common, that we both appreciate music for the love of music. God. And then the other part is, can I do that? Can I use it at a gig? So I would agree. I have not. Silk Sonic, I've played a couple of their songs as doors opener songs, but they haven't rocked to my dance floor. No. But so they opened the show for the listeners and you loved it. Okay.
I did.
Any other performances that stood out for you?
Man, I wrote on here, BTS is actually kind of good. Like, I started talking to my son.
They are so, I wrote so tight. They are so tight.
I said, my son said, man, number one, why are there no American boy bands anymore? And then number two, I was like, look how good the choreography is, right? And he was like, man, they go to school for like 5 years or something before they even like turn them loose to the world. Like, they're that tight when they came out in whatever year they came out in. Yeah. Like, he was telling me, like, they train them like Olympians, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you want to go back and watch that Butter performance, just sit there and try to appreciate the hours and hours and hours of choreography that went into it. Yeah, they killed it. Yep. Yeah.
Anyway, Billie Eilish in the rain, that was kind of cool, wearing the Taylor Hawkins tee, the guy from the Foo Fighters that passed. Yeah. Chris Stapleton's just a god. I mean,
I gave him 2 stars. I loved it. And I just wrote real instruments. And it was the first time, I think, since the opening, because Silk Sonic had real instruments, but it was the first time since the opening that I actually saw a guitar on stage and a band. Yeah.
I mean, I love Lil Nas X. I love Jack Harlow. Jack Harlow's got my vote for White Boy of the Year. He's a runner-up to me.
Right.
And then it just kind of went downhill, Mike. So this comes back to the DJ
I know you
part
texted me that you were struggling with it.
Right. Here's where we're going to bring it back to the DJ part. Sequencing, right? It felt like it went like the energy just started going lower and lower and lower. Right. And if I'm not mistaken, based on my phone and at 6:10 this morning in the bed, was Brothers Osborne the closer?
Yeah, that's an unenviable spot. They basically gave out the last award of the night, which was Album of the Year, and then they end with Brothers Johnson, which
Brothers Osborne.
Brothers Osborne. I'm sorry. Okay. I get the fact that, hey, it's a music show, so let's end with a song. But man, and then they even start, like, about halfway through that song, they start rolling the credits and a photo montage of the night or video montage of the night. So yeah, I mean, that is an unenviable position for them, but they still get to play on the Grammys, and they're not that big of a name to kind of earn that spot. They almost belonged on the roof. And what I mean by that is, if you didn't watch the show, when they cut to some commercials, they basically sent it to the rooftop stage where they had kind of secondary bands play it out maybe a minute, and then when they came back from commercial, that song was wrapping up. Again, not a great spot for a band, but if you're not that famous,
can say you played the Grammys.
You can say you played the Grammys, so I also put stars next to J Balvin.
Yeah.
Not the opening part of his performance, but when he went into Ghetto, the choreography, the arm choreography, if you know what I mean. Yes. And I sat there, Kelly was still watching at that point, and I just said, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. And it almost looked like, remember back in the day when they did the choreographed swimming? You ever see that like back in the 40s or 50s? It almost looked like that. Yeah. I mean, all it was a bunch of dancers seated. In tiers, almost like rows of a gym, bleachers, and they were just, and then they took the flashlights out. I thought it was incredibly creative.
It was cool.
That and Chris Stapleton were my two favorite performances of the night. I loved Peaches by Justin Timberlake. I like the reworking of it. My problem, Justin Bieber. Sorry, my problem with that was how often it was muted, and because they kept saying "shit," she's the shit. But I'm like, I'm a big boy. I can handle I've said this before. I wish these award shows would have one broadcast edited for families and then another put it on HBO or put it somewhere that I'm a big boy. I don't need Eminem bleeped every minute. I don't need Justin Bieber bleeped every minute. I can handle the S word. So that was if that hadn't been bleeped, that might have been my favorite performance of the night, because I like how we started it slow on the piano and then it built up. It became a very cool R&B
He was
track.
in Greensboro about an hour and 15 from here last night, man, and it took all I could do not to go. I had my kids and some
I would go see
that.
On. Yeah. Any surprises for you? Anything that you were like, wow, I totally didn't expect that at the show?
Oh, I do want to mention that I watched this morning as well. I like that girl, Her. And then when Lenny Kravitz came out and Lenny's got his dreadlocks back and literally looks better than he did in
dude, he's ageless, that guy.
I love that dude. And Travis Barker.
You know what? We should Todd Powers and I should put a clip of him in our seminar about staying relevant, because I mean, the guy has not aged, and like you said, he might even look better than he did.
It's unreal. He lives on an island like by himself somewhere and just like eats like freaking coconuts. Like the guy is shredded. It's insane. Anyway,
I like her performance, but you know what I wrote? It seems like award shows love her more than anyone else. Like she is an award show staple, but I don't get requests for her. I don't hear about her any other where, but it seems like she's got this niche of like, hey, award shows love her.
Every once in a while she'll pop up on The Heat on Sirius XM. Okay. Every once in a while one of her songs will.
Yeah, I wrote Lenny Kravitz looks great. He's amazing. Yeah.
Anyway, but as I'm looking back through this, I will say this. One, diversity, yes. Two, there was tons of performances, and almost more, too many. Like best rap album, Tyler the Creator wins. It's off air, and that's a huge. To me, I would have wanted to see him go get it. He's just a very enigmatic person. Like, I don't even know who was there from that category. I think Kanye boycotted. I think Drake boycotted. So, but yes, surprise wise, man. Listen, I didn't think Silk Sonic. I love them. I love the album. I didn't think they were going to win all they did.
I mean, go back to last week. I'm pretty sure I said they're not going to win. So that was I was obviously surprised by that.
I don't know, and maybe call me the old man. Didn't know this John Batiste guy from Adam. I didn't know the guy at all. Like I only know him because I watch Stephen Colbert, and he's his band leader. I did hear that's who he was.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't know him if he walked in here right now and punched me in the face. Like,
and I listened to the album when it first came out, and I just wasn't a fan. I didn't get it. Yeah, I've
been listening to it for the last 2 days, going, did I miss something? What is the big deal with this record?
Well, that's a subjective thing about art, Joe. Some people, it lands for some people, it doesn't land for some people. It obviously enough Grammy voters loved it, or just felt it was an important enough message at the time. Because I think that's part of it. I think sometimes some voters, it might not necessarily be this is great music, but this is what the world needs right now, or the bigger picture kind of thing.
Which then makes me even rewind like the last year and go, oh my God, like think about all those records me and Mike have talked about before. What's that guy you love? Come down, selector. Oh, we're going to that guy you and Kelly love so much.
Michael Franti. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Franti.
Why is he not nominated? Why is Need to Breathe not nominated? Why is Saint Raymond? There's another.
Well, listen, you could go down the same rabbit hole with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why are there bands that? Why is Jethro Tull not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Right.
And Donna Summer is. So you could definitely go down that rabbit hole. So a couple things that stood out for me. I love the fact that Tony Bennett introduced Lady Gaga via video, pre-recorded. And it reminded me just the week before the Oscars felt the need to wheel out Liza Minnelli, who literally couldn't get through her intro. And it was a beautiful moment because Lady Gaga leaned over and said, "Hey, I got you." And she finished. Yeah. But and that also reminded me a number of years ago when they did the same thing to Kirk Douglas. Yeah. I think at some point with these elderly celebrities, it's just, if we need to see them at the award show, have it and if you watch the Tony Bennett intro, he did about a 3-sentence intro, and even that had to be edited because there was a jump cut. So he couldn't even get through 3 sentences. Yeah. He's 97 years old. This is not a knock on an elderly person, but can we stop bringing these people out live at these award shows?
He didn't even need to do the phone in or the video in. Like,
it was nice, though. It was nice to, right.
But could they not have sent an engineer, Mr. Bennett, we're just going to do a voiceover? Like, wouldn't it have been just as cool in the auditorium
with a
live?
still shot of That's
I know his voice. I would know his voice out of 30. If you played 30 voices, I'd be like, that's Tony.
Great point. Yeah, great point. But then the Gaga performance, I got to be honest with you, Joe. I don't know what she's trying to accomplish.
I hated it.
It was the cheap, and I don't mind the throwback stuff for music. I love Michael Bublé. Some of the Rod Stewart stuff when he was doing it was cool. Some of it, but man, I watched it because I'm dedicated to what. But I was like, you've lost me, Gaga. You're so talented. You can still do great dance tracks. Rain on Me was one of my favorite songs a couple years ago. So she's still relevant in the dance. I had no idea. I wrote down, what is she trying to prove? I just didn't get it.
I have one last point I want to make, and I think some people like this. So there was a segment for the 99.7% of the people that didn't watch this show where they allowed people's tour managers and production managers. I wanted to point that out. You loved it.
Absolutely. You didn't love it?
See, man, if you look, and I with Davis and Colin were still up at this point, I looked at them and I said, do you want to see what my life looks like on the weekend when I hand the microphone? Go back and look at this very first lady. Or it was the first or second.
Oh, the hand. I wrote that down. Her hand was shaking.
Was so fucking, nervous that
you don't find that beautiful? The fact that she is not a public speaker, was given that opportunity, seized that opportunity. I heard a saying once, I'm going to screw this up, but the basic point was, the most elegant words are often not the most heartfelt, and the most heartfelt are also often not the most eloquent. And I felt like those tour managers were speaking from the heart. They aren't smooth. They aren't polished front people. That's why they weren't.
But they were on a prompter. They were on a prompter, though.
True, but like you said, that's what you see every. I didn't mind it. Matter of fact, I agree. It's what we see every weekend with the best man or the maid of honor, or 90% of the time. But I find some beauty in that. First of all, I find it courageous, because some people would be like, "Nope, I don't." I bet there were other tour managers.
Both of my kids were like
that. Said
both of my kids were like, absolutely not. I would never do that. And I was like, for real? And they were like, no, sir. They were like,
so I like the courageousness of somebody who accepted that role. And I have a different, like, for example, Questlove, when Questlove gave out the award, he fumfered over a bunch, and I thought to myself, dude, you're a celebrity. How are you not more polished on the microphone? That one spoke to me more than the tour managers whose hand was literally shaking so much. So I didn't have a problem with it. And I loved it. Similar to I think it was last year, one of the country music award shows, because of the whole shutdown and how much these bars and small clubs were hurt during that, they they came to you from a number of different honky tonks around the Nashville area. And I thought that was a wonderful thing. It wasn't this elaborate stage setup, but it was I thought it was nice to put the spotlight on some of those. So I thought it was nice. And again, especially in the context of, man, these people have been out of work for so long and struggled through the last 2 years. Now that touring is back up, let's throw them a little spotlight. That was my thought.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, good?
Yeah, good stuff.
I liked it.
Try and watch the Grammys if it comes back. If it comes back again, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
So listen,
next
let's
week.
do a little teaser for next week.
Okay,
We have some questions sent in by a listener. He sent in some specifically multi-op questions. Kenneth Ferrara, who is a loyal listener. So that will be next week. Joe and I will be answering some multi-op questions.
Let's do it.
Ciao.
Thanks, y'all.